Good morning, students. Good morning to all. And last day we have studied about the Rigadian theory of rent. So today also just we will remind about the Rigadian theory of rent and we will go to the next concepts. So rent is the price or reward given for the use of land or house or a machine to the owner normally. Normally, what we will think about the rent rent is the price or reward are given for the use of land or house or a machine to the owner. Normally, if any of the owner of any of the producers want to produce any of the goods, he must use the land or house or a machine. When he is using these factors or these land or machines, he must given to some of the given the reward to the land or house or machines. So the given some of the reward given for the use of land only is called as a rent. But in economics, so rent or economic rent refers to the part of payment made by a tenant to his landlords for the use of land only. For the purpose of cultivating the land only, we have to given the rent according to the economics. So and next we have studied the Rigadian theory of rent. So for on the basis of the Rigadian theory is the rent is given to the land and the purpose of the indestructible or the original power of the soils. So we have to take in some of the assumptions to prove this theory. First one is land differs in fertility. So on the basis of the land, it will be differs on the basis of fertility. Next, the law of diminishing returns operates. In this land, the law of diminishing returns only will be operates because when we are using the land as continuously, so the productivity of the land will be diminished. Next, rent depends upon the fertility. So most fertility land only will be getting the more rent. Next, this theory assumes perfect competitions. Perfect competitions means so everybody can easily entrance into the market and it will be except from that. Next, it is based on the assumptions of long run. This theory is based on the assumptions of long period because suddenly we will not get the yield from the cultivation land. So we must consider the long term phenomenon. Next, land is used for cultivations only. Nowadays we are using the land for many purposes, but Rigadians are considered, Rigadian told us to consider to the land is only used for the cultivations. Next, land has certain original powers. So land has certain original powers means the indestructible powers. Even if you are cultivate any of the seed, it will be has some of the productivity. Next, most fertility land only cultivated are first. So normally if there is many land, we will use the most fertility land only cultivate at first. So on the basis of this theory, he is assumed some of the stories. So that we should have the three types of land A and B and C. And some of the peoples go to a newly discovered island and settle down there, and there are three grades of land, namely A, B and C. So first some of the peoples only will be selected the A grade land, and the A grade land also will have some of the productivity. Productivity means per 1 acre the 40 bags of paddy is going to cultivated. Suppose another group of people goes to settle down in the same island after some times. Hence the demand for agricultural produce will be increased. Then the most fertility land alone cannot produce all the food grains that are needed on account of the operation of law of diminishing returns. So as I told, so when the land has the law of diminishing returns, so this productivity from the land is not enabled to all the new peoples. So the new peoples will be going to use the second grade, the B grade land to cultivate to the paddy. So when we are comparing to the B grade land with the A grade land, So the A grade land will produce the 40 bags paddy per acre, but the B grade land will be produce the 30 bags paddy only on the basis of the fertility. So we can consider the A grade land as the 10 bags paddy as surplus. The surplus bags paddy only is considered as a rent for the A grade land. So after some time, some of the extra peoples also going to the same island and settle down. Now the B grade land and A grade land bags of paddy will not sufficient to the C grade or the extra peoples. So the C grade land will going to use for cultivating the paddy. And here the C grade land will produce the 20 bags only. But when we are comparing the C grade land with the A grade land, the A grade land will produce the 20 grade surplus bags. But the C grade land only will have the 20 bags of paddy only. So when we are deducting the A grade land paddies, so the C grade land only will have the 20 bags of paddy only. The 20 bags of paddy will equal to the cost of production. So we can consider the A grade land will have the 20 surplus bags of paddy. So the B grade land also will have the 10 bags of surplus paddy. So the B grade land, the rent for the B grade land is just 10 bags of paddy, and the rent for the A grade land will get the 20 bags of paddy. Next, the C grade land will never get the land. So here the no rent land, the C grade land is considered as a no rent land. So the three columns are considered as A grade land, B grade land and C grade land. So A grade land will produce 40 bags of paddy. So this A grade land will get the economic rent, because on the basis of the fertility of the land it will be produce 40% of the paddy. Next, the B grade land also will get the 30 bags of paddy. So this B and the C grade land will get the economic rent, but the C grade land will never get the economic land. So this rent is considered as the C grade land is considered as a no rent land. Okay students, then today we will study the next concept, the quasi rent. The quasi rent is a surplus that the producer receives in the short period over variable cost from the sale of output. So the Marshall introduced the concept of quasi rent. The factors other than land, say plant, machinery or fixed supply during the short period. So except the land, the other factor of productions mean the fixed supply, the machineries and plant and some of the extra tools also considered as a other factor of productions. So they earn surplus income when demand rises. Suppose the demand is increased, we will change the variable factor on the basis of the demand. So suddenly we can adapt or arrange some extra machineries. So from the extra machineries, if you are getting some of the profit, or these machineries will get some of the extra rent, this rent is considered as a quasi rent. It is purely temporary as it disappears in long run due to increase in supply. In short run, we cannot increase any of the more supply. In short run, we cannot increase the any of commodities with more supply. But in this long run, we can easily increase by changing all the variable factors and the fixed factors. But if we want to increasing the supply of commodities within the short period, we have to take some of the effort. So what are the effect we can take? So we can apply some of the extra machineries, and these extra machineries and some of the plant also will get some extra rent on the basis of demand. So within the short period, this plant or some machineries will get some of the extra rent. This extra rent is called considered as a quasi rent. But this quasi rent will be disappear automatically in the long run. So the quasi means it is the illusions. Within the short run, only some of the machineries and plant will get some of the extra rent, and automatically it will be disappears. So we can consider this is a quasi rent. The quasi means the illusions. The quasi rent is a surplus that a producer receives in the short period over variable cost from the sale of output. So here we have to know about the difference between the quasi rent and the rent. If you are considering the rent accrues to land only. On the basis of regarding theories, the rent not the regarding theories. On the basis of economics, the rent only will receive from the use of land. But quasi rent accrues to man-made appliances. Man-made appliances means the machineries and the plant, everything made by the man. So the quasi rent will be received from the man-made appliances. Next, the supply of land is fixed forever. So if you are considering the supply, the productivity of the land always will be the fixed. But the quasi rent, the supply of man-made appliances is fixed for a short period only. Within the short period only, we can increasing the supply of commodity by using the machineries and some of the tools. But within the long run, it will be disappears. So the supply of man-made appliances is fixed for a short period only. In long period, it will be disappears. Next, the rent enters into the price. But the quasi rent, it does not enter into the price. Because for using the machineries only we will get. But rent is used for the land for cultivating any of the crops. The quasi rent is the income derived from machines and other appliances made by the man. Next is the modern theory of rent. The classical economist thought that land as a factor of production was different from other factor of productions. So the classical economist thought that the land only is the peculiar factor of productions other than the other factor of productions. But modern economists thought that all the factors of productions are like and there is no basic differences between them. Because we have studied if you want to produce any of the commodities, the four factors of productions must be arranged without fail. So the ratio may be changed, but we must use the four factors of productions. But the classical economists thought that the land only is the peculiar facts of productions. So there is no basic difference between the other factor of productions. Hence a special theory was developed by the Ricardo. It is not necessary. So therefore economists like John Robinson and Baldwin have contributed their ideas for the determination of rent. So which is known as modern theory of rent. The essence of the conception of rent is the conception of surplus earned by a particular part of a factor of production over and above the minimum earnings that is necessary in induce it to work. So on the basis of modern theory of rent, the rent is the difference between the actual earnings of a factor of production and its transfer earnings. Transfer earnings mean now if the labor are used to produce any of the commodities, and within the short period or within the long period, if there is no employed for the labor, he will go to another one of the works. So whenever he going to change transferring their work, he will get some extra earnings. So how much amount of the extra earning is earned by the labor is considered as the rent. Next, the wages. So who will get the wages mean the labor. The labor only will get the wages for their work. The wages are a payment for the services of the laborer, whether the laborer may be the intellectual or the physical. So wage may be paid daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly or yearly, and partly at the end of the year in the form of bonus. So for the purpose of producing any of the commodities by the laborer, he will get some of the remunerations in the form of wages. So normally the wages will be paid by daily or weekly or monthly or yearly or fortnightly and on the basis of the notifications. So what's the meaning of wages? The wages is the price paid to the laborer for the services rendered. So the services provided by the laborer is indispensable. So without objection, so we must using the laborer for the purpose of producing any of the commodities. So a sum of money paid under contract by an employer to a worker for the services rendered, considered as wages. Here the four kinds of wages are there. Normally the wages are classified on four types. First one is nominal wages or money wages. So nominal wages means it referred to the wages paid in terms of money only. Normally if you are doing some of the work for our owner or the producers, we will get some of the remunerations in the form of money only. So without any of the other incentives. Next, real wages. The real wages are the wages paid in the terms of goods and services. Hence, real wages are the purchasing power of money wages. Normally, after getting some of the remunerations in the form of money, so after earning some amount of money in the form of, after earning some amount of remunerations in the form of money, we will get some of the services and some of the incentives or some of the bonus or the EBI or PF, everything will be added. So when added everything, our purchasing power will be increased. So on the basis of our purchasing power of commodity, if you are considered our wages, that is called real wages. Next, piece wages. According to this, the wages that are paid on the basis of quantum of work done. So on the basis of the quantum of work done, if you are getting the wages, it is considered as a piece wages. On the basis of our work, how much amount of work we have done within the one day, we will get some of the wages. That is called piece wages. Normally the contractual persons always will get the piece wages. If you are completed some amount of work, he will get some of the wages. Next, time wages. So the wages that are paid on the basis of the amount of time that the worker works. So normally the masons, carpenter and some of the professionalists will be worked on the basis of time. He will get some of the wages. These wages are considered as a time wages. Per hour he will get per hour the workers will get some amount of money as a wages. Mostly the machine operator or the doctors and the carpenters, some of the professionalist peoples will get the time wages. In these wages, different type of the theories are there. That theories are called as a theories of wages. So in these theories of wages, many of the theories are there to explaining the wages. First one of the theory is subsistence theory of wages. The subsistence theory is one of the oldest theory of wages. So it was first explained by the Physiocrats, a group of French economists, and restated by Ricardo. So according to this theory, wage must be equal to the subsistence level of the laborer and his family. The wage must be equal to the subsistence level of the laborer and his family. So before that, we have to understand what is the meaning of subsistence level. The subsistence means the minimum amount of food, clothing and shelter which workers and their family require for existence. If any of the laborer going to the work, the wage must be equal to their subsistence level. Subsistence level means the basic necessity of life. The wage must be equal to fulfill the basic necessity of life only. So by using this wage, he can use the food, cloth and shelter. After that, he cannot purchase any of the commodities as extra. If workers are paid higher wages than the subsistence level, the workers would be better off and they will have large families. Hence, the population would increase. When the population increases, the supply of laborer would increase and therefore wage will come down. So this Ricardo considered if the laborer are going to get more wages, his purchasing power will be increased, and because of that the populations will be increased. Population will be increased means, so we can consider in which mean so it will be increased. So when the population increases, the supply of laborer will be increased. Now normally the population of our nation is increased mean, so the supply of labor also will be increased. If the supply of labor increased, what will happen? So all the existing labor will get the low wages. So on the other hand, if the wages are lower than the subsistence level, there would be a reduction in population and thereby the supply of labor falls and wage increases to the subsistence level. Suppose if you are increasing the wage rate lower than their subsistence level, the wage rate will be increases and the supply of labor also will be decreased. Because the demand of the labor will be increased. If there is low wages for their labor mean, they will come to the work and they will eat and purchase some clothes and they will live for their basic necessity one. This theory holds that the wages of workers would not be above or below the subsistence level of the laborer and his family. So if we are considering the wages must be equal to the subsistence level of the laborer and his family only. But here many of the criticisms are there. So what are the criticisms means? The role of trade unions in collective bargaining was not found. So normally if the laborer are there, so the trade unions must be existing in our nations. So whenever the wage rate is going to decrease beyond the optimum level or the reasonable level, the trade union will be collective bargaining, but it was not found. Next, it does not explain the difference in wages in different occupations. So normally on the basis of the occupations, the wage rate will be different, but the different wage rate will not be entered. Next, the assumptions that population would increase with the rise in wage rate is not correct. So poor families have more children than rich families. So wage rate alone does not determine the birth rate actually. As increase, people can afford to downsize their family size for adopting costly family planning procedures, while poor people cannot do so. So normally the peoples will never birth more child. So on the basis of their subsistence level only they will live. But even some of the poor families have more children than the rich families. Normally if you are considering the rich families, they will have 1 or 2 more children. But the poor people will have the dozen time of peoples. So these subsistence levels will have more criticisms. Okay students, I think it's enough. If you have any doubt, please ask me. And just to take the subsistence theory of wages as your study portions. Thank you.